Hey, listeners, don't forget to subscribe to email if you haven't already. Do this at dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. And if you are a new subscriber, look for the magazine coming up. You can get a free download as a new subscriber. That's dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. Thanks so much, and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Remember, you are a superstar. Hey, good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Dear Business Coach podcast. John Little, how are you today?
Doing great, Elizabeth. How are you?
Great, fine, thank you. Hey, I want to say, it's the beginning of fall, kind of getting ready for those things. One of the things I've been thinking about is change of seasons and just reminding myself and our listeners, we might be thinking about change of pace, change of ideas. This is all a time of a season. I know for a lot of us who have kids or family and grandkids, and what's going on when they go back to school. And, does that affect us as we change pace going in the working world? Does that change do these seasonal changes affect us?
Yeah.
Um, how are you handling the end of summer, beginning of fall?
So full disclosure, fall is my favorite season of the year.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I always look forward to the fall just personally. But yeah, I mean, as a business owner and as a business leader, fall always signals a couple of things. One, it signals like the wind down of the year, and gives us a chance to start to look back at the things that have worked really well for us, as well as gives us a chance to look back at some of the things that maybe we wish had gone differently or we had done differently. But then it also, the other side is it gives us something to look forward to, because now a lot of businesses, a lot of organizations, whether it's a small business or a large corporate business, we're starting to look towards next year. We're starting to look towards the new season in the new year. We start to look at budgets for next year. We start to look at goals for next year. We start to look at things that we want to accomplish in the next year. So while it's a reflective time, it's also a really exciting time, because it does give you a chance to get that full kind of picture of where you are, where you've been, and where you want to go.
Wow! So we are partnered. The Dear Business Coach podcast is now officially partnered with NordVPN. And you know what? Look out for the logo, some press releases, cool information. What in the heck is a VPN and how does it work? I'm really excited. I travel and now I know how to get the VPN security I need. So, Nord is now officially our affiliate partner. Look out for ways to support the show by going to the affiliate link I provide to you in your email and other places. You can see it on the website. Thanks so much, NordVPN. Yes. And I think that now, right, it is challenging to think to break out the differences between how do I think about getting ready for next year, as well as when I need to think about finishing out this year. It's just such a weird
Sure, it
mental
is.
a mental conundrum.
It
I
is.
used to be in sales roles, and that was always difficult for me to think about push, push, push till the end of the year. And that would always make me feel a certain way.
Right.
Well, now you are my expert today from how you are relating to folks in HR. And so I
Mhm.
want to ask you, I mean, that's not actually the whole of our pre-interview when we talked. I didn't even really ask you a whole lot about that because I'm interested in you as a person and a leader and some of those little insights we can get here. But I want to actually read your title because it's very helpful and very um, specific. So I want to make sure that I highlight where you're coming from, literally, from your title and experience. So I'm looking at the LinkedIn profile, and this is Big John Little is
Mhm.
your profile handle. And you say, I help CHROs and HR leaders build confident, high impact executives who stop talent churn, strengthen culture, and deliver results CEOs trust. And this is a position that you are very specifically navigating between two parties, right? You're coaching me if I'm thinking about how to help my executives. You're also coaching me, as an internal leader and how I impact the organization that way. And then
Right.
you also have a responsibility. I have a responsibility, if I'm coming to you for help, to think about what I'm delivering to my boss, my CEO, my
Hmm.
leader. And that is uh, a little bit like you're an individual person in a pipeline, right? We sometimes think about vendors and suppliers, and we can map out a business model in terms of supply chain and the end customer. You're kind of that as a person.
A little bit.
And so that and so it's fascinating because you're dealing with people and expectations and development,
Mhm.
and these are the commodities that we're dealing with inside of ourselves. So that's my long way of saying I w- recognize that you are talking to a few different people. You have a couple of different audiences at the same time.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm rambling on about this is because if I am an employee, I need you to communicate to me what the leadership is interested in, as much as I am looking to you. If I'm a lead, as if I'm an executive, a CEO, I need to come to you and trust you as a liaison to my team members, or maybe team members that I don't have direct contact with all the time.
Yeah.
Um, so why don't you tell me what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So it is really is a lot of those things. So I work with a lot of times I work with CHROs or HR leaders who have people in their organization who are responsible for the results, responsible for the outputs, responsible for the things that the CEO is going to be paying attention to. And I help them really lead their teams. I tell HR leaders this all the time. It's like I can't tell you how to sell more widgets. I can't tell you how to, anything that's on the spreadsheets. I'm not a spreadsheet guy, but what I am is I'm a people expert. And so I know how to get the most out of your leaders. I know how to transform your leaders from being singularly focused to being more well-rounded. So that way they can get the most out of everyone on their teams, because that's really what it is, right? When I work with CHROs and when I work with HR leaders and I work with the people that are on their teams, that is really the focus: is how can we get the best out of the people that are on your teams? How can we help your managers become better leaders? How can we help your leaders be more strategic and more visionary, as opposed to being more transactional and just looking at the results? Because what I've seen time and time and time again is the more that you focus on your people, the more that you focus on developing strong leadership culture, the more that you focus on developing areas within your teams that are like in the margins, that's where you see the big jumps in results. And that's where you see more effective teams, you see more efficient teams, you see less turnover, you see all of the things that will drive the company to be stronger and healthier financially. You get all of those things from people. Like innovation that comes from people, like everything that you need as a business that you want to try to measure. Think about, how do we connect the people aspect to that, any area that we want to improve?
Mm. Okay, so if I wanted to take your expertise, and I am also somehow trying to fit information that I have about my performance on a piece of paper, and you're explaining to me that I can be thinking about people and their performance, and also I can extrapolate that where I need to show that the health of the business of the organization is fully benefiting. How do I start to like blend those things together? So I come to you, and I'm going to get what can I actually ask you for training and actual, are you going to act as an HR? Do you like, how far does your role go to if I am asking you for help with my team, am I actually going to come to you directly for training, or is there something else going on here that I am going to go deeper on?
Yeah, so it could be a number of things. It could be training, it can be something like, working with your leaders to develop a common language around, how we want to lead our teams. So, I've done cohort trainings with groups that have taken them from kind of where they were, just kind of going through the motions, trying to figure things out individually to where they're now a cohesive team working together, leaning into the various strengths of the people on their team to help to lift, every boat on the team, in addition to working one-on-one with leaders, in a one-on-one coaching relationship. So, there's a number of C-suite individuals that I've been able to connect with and coach to kind of help them think about how they want their organization, their individual line of business to look. What are the things that they're struggling with, and why are they struggling with those things? And so when we start to unpack the why, then we are really able to solve for X instead of just looking at, we just stopped looking at numbers and how do we improve our numbers. A lot of times the way to improve the numbers is to unpack all the details and to get deep into where there are gaps within their teams. And oftentimes it is a leader or two that is just kind of struggling, whether it's something like communication or accountability, or their core understanding of their functions in the role. A lot of those things often are the reasons why we see the results that aren't meeting up to the standards. And we can see things like people that are not on their teams who are strong or comfortable, people who are struggling with things like imposter syndromes, things that will get in the way of people being productive. And a lot of times those things can be addressed and worked on, but it does take a little bit of time to unpack those and really get to the root of what we need to be solving for.
What we need to be solving for. So what would be an example of that? Like what would when do you have an example of maybe a team you worked with or an organization you worked with where maybe we were solving for the wrong outcome?
Yeah, I do. I
Okay.
worked with I was a hospital administrator, and she was thrust into a role um, where she inherited a team, and the team that she inherited was just quite frankly a little bit of a mess. They were all over the place. Um, People were doing their own things. People were operating outside of policy and creating a lot of not only chaos within the organization, but also creating a lot of risk within the organization. So, in working with her and coaching her, one of the things that we kind of discovered right away was there was a major accountability problem. There was nobody being held accountable, and her being new in her role, being new to the team, her lens on accountability was if I come in with the hammer, then everybody's going to hate me and no one's going to be on board. So in coaching her, I was helping her to recognize that accountability is really one of the highest forms of kindness, but you have to do it the right way. You have to be able to establish what the expectations are. You have to be able to communicate and clarify those expectations. You need to get everybody on the same page with what the expectations are. Once you've done that, then accountability becomes so much easier because now we're having a conversation about things that we agreed about or that we've agreed on already, instead of me coming in and saying, hey, you're not doing this, and trying to hold you accountable for that. So that was one of the big
Mm.
issues that we addressed that made a big change once they started to have those conversations. And also understanding how she built trust and how others built trust with her. Once she started to recognize where those trust breaks were and address those and connect with people and communicate people in a different way, she started to see rapid results that were much better. So, and as a result, that her department came together a lot quicker. The results got better. There was less friction within the team. They were no longer the problem team within the organization, and she was able to really start to lead that team the way that they needed to be led. And that was the issue when she inherited the team. There was no leadership in that space before. So everybody was doing their own thing. And that's one of the
Mm.
things that I think a lot of times people don't recognize, regardless of where you are in the organization. People want, need, and deserve strong leaders.
Ah, yes, I've heard deserve strong leadership. I like that phrase a lot. It sounds like that particular person might have been hired for that reason. That's what happened. Help. and
Right.
and and so I would I'm impressed that you were able to dial into that accountability, and so or that she could immediately implement some kind of accountability, that you were able to pick up on that through talking with her and having the conversation in that coaching fashion. I mean, that's what I really like about, being able to expose an expert such as yourself in a personal way like this, because I want to get a feel for, what is it that you like to, what's your personality, what's your background, when I come to you, what does the work look like, what do those conversations look like? And I think that it's one thing to say, well, you need to give your team tools to be accountable, and you have to make them be accountable. But then to do that, to turn around and do that, did that person you were coaching, did she just like show up to work the next week and say, okay, I have a new sheet that everybody has to fill out that says what they did? I mean, was she nervous about doing that? Do you think?
Yes, initially she was nervous because accountability is one of those big things that people tend to shy away from, because the perception around accountability is it usually the perception of and the negative perception of accountability comes from two places. It comes from a place of command or control, and so when people have a negative perception of accountability, then they think that I'm going to have to be like the hard and be the hammer on everybody and like just like be the rules police. Like that's how they think accountability is. Or like I have to micromanage every single detail so I know that everything is done right, and they think that's what accountability is. But in reality it's neither one of those things. So in the conversations that we had to kind of start to frame it up, like I walked her through the framework of understanding what we need to do first. So we need to first communicate and get clarity on the expectations. And so that's work that she and I did one on one. Is so let's talk about what are the expectations that you want to make sure that everybody has expectations around how they behave, on how they show up, on how they do their work, on how they report it, right? So the clearer that we could get about those details, her and I and our coaching, then she was able to then take that to her team and say, all right, here's the first thing that we want to do. So she didn't frame everything up as, I'm going to start holding you more accountable. She's
Mm.
framed it up as, let's get clarity on the expectations around our department as a whole and then individually. And like that was a meeting, and then that was done, right? Then it was okay, so the next meeting, so let's talk about these expectations. Let's communicate here as your leader. Here's what I'm expecting based on these expectations. What are you expecting as a team from each other, from yourselves, and also from me? So then they had that conversation. Then the next conversation they had was, okay, what questions do we have about the last two conversations, the last two meetings that we had? So by doing that, it eliminated so much of the gray area, so much of the fog. Everybody knew exactly what was expected of them individually and collectively after that three-step process. And then after that, any accountability conversations became so much easier because she could just point back to those three meetings and say, okay, so where in these three meetings was there a disconnect? How can I help you, either understand better, how can I help to support you. And when you do those first three parts, then it becomes either a competence issue, meaning that somebody may not know exactly how to do what they're expected to do. It may be a confidence issue. Maybe they haven't done it before, and so maybe they need some small steps to be able to get it done right. Well, you can coach competence because I can get you more training, more resources, and more knowledge. I can coach confidence because as a leader, I can be there to support you every step of the way. Or maybe it's a commitment issue, and maybe that they're just not interested in doing the job. And if that's the case, then that's a different conversation that we need to have. But by doing the work up front in those three meetings and her and I doing that work before she got in front of her team, it made that entire process so much simpler, so much more seamless, and so much more effective.
Yeah, well, cool. So thank you for breaking that out. I recently had an experience where a discussion group that I go to, um, recently separated the sessions into topic and then another session for Q&A, and that really changed. That really did something different for the group and how that went. So this is really an example too, I think, of how you are slowing a process down and making sure we're reflecting. And
Yeah.
that's really interesting. I was going to ask you, you kind of already answered it, but basically after as a leader with a goal of developing accountability and what that means to us as a new team together, new leader. I am getting to know you as a team, and you're getting to know me as a leader. This is what I think my expectations are. This is what I have put forth that I can say the expectations are. And then what? Do I actually use language that is something like, what do you think about that? Or do I use language that is, um, do you agree? What kind of language can I use to get this reflective uh, stage going in a productive way?
Yeah, that's a great question because people get stuck there frequently. It could be as simple as just after you shared what you have, just to pause and say thoughts. Like,
Hmm.
what thoughts do you have? What feedback do you have? Right? Just being super intentional about taking those pauses for thoughts, recognizing that sometimes people may still need some additional time to process, and that's why we break it up into those three individual sessions to give people time to step away and reflect. And then when you start the next meeting, you don't just dive right into it. You start with some. So let's go back to what we finished last time. Like, what thoughts have you had since then? What's come up? What questions do you have before we move forward? That's one way to do it. Another way that I've done with leaders is, especially those leaders who tend to want to talk a lot or feel like they talk a lot, and a way for them to give space to others is to just use this simple phrase: I have thoughts, but I want to hear what everybody else has to say first. So by doing that, you're putting out that you do have something to say, but you want to get the pulse of the room. You want to hear what others are saying instead of you just being the only voice in the room. That's a way to get some of that feedback, to get some of those thoughts. And then if it's in a one-on-one setting, just having that direct conversation, like, hey, I know that we shared a lot in that last meeting, or I know I've just shared a lot. I want to pause and give you a chance to share with me what you're thinking right now. How does that land with you? Like, where do you see this is going to be a positive for you? Where do you see that there may be some areas of growth? Right? There's so many different things that you can do, but really the mindset of curiosity and the mindset of inviting people into the conversation for leaders, like, that's a game changer. Because for many people, they don't have that experience from leaders. They have leaders who will just drive and will just say and will just talk at instead of talking with. And so, using that mindset of curiosity, using those good questions, those are the things that get people to buy in, and that's where you start to see some of those shifts in behavior and mindset and results.
Wow. I think this comes from a science that sounds like a little bit of mediation. There's probably some other schools of thought that I'm not even aware of that teach this kind of communication. Do you have background in other fields besides what you're doing now that have informed this language that you're giving us?
So I guess a little bit. I always describe my career, my background as a career jungle gym, because I started in believe it or not, right out of college, I started in sports media production,
Okay.
and so communication has always been a big part of what I've done. So I'm used to talking and used to being able to put things into sound bites, if you will.
Hmm.
So that helps. My corporate experience has largely been in learning and development, and training. So again, I'm used to being able to take concepts and knowledge and then translate it into a way that people can apply things. And I think the biggest thing is throughout my career, I've just always had leadership roles. So
Mm.
I've been able to see what works and what doesn't. I definitely have the scars of learning how to lead and bumping my head along the way. And I also have some great success stories of people that I have super close relationships to this day, even though we haven't worked together for years, because we built a genuine relationship while I was leading them on a team. So there's not a
Mm.
specific thing that I've done that I would say inform that. I think it's just kind of the years of experience and seeing what's worked not only for me, but what's worked for the people that I've either coached or supported or trained, and then hearing those successes as well as hearing things that don't work. Those are the things that really have informed my process and my approach.
Yeah. Well, I so there's a lot of personal interest there. You obviously have really taken what you've learned and really put a lot of intention into it. And where's the best way, what's the best way for me to get access to you, as far as talking to you and getting familiar with your work and where I can learn more from your practice?
Yeah, thank you. LinkedIn really is the best way for people to get in touch with me. That's where I spend most of my time from a social media standpoint, for sure.
Mhm.
But that's where I have podcasts like this that I'm able to participate in. And thank you again for having me as a guest. I have the clips from my podcast appearances. I have content that I share, as well as things that I'm doing that are out there that I think can be helpful and beneficial to people. But yeah, LinkedIn.com. Big John Little is my tag on there. So if you're to look me up, that's the best way for people to find me and get in touch with me.
Yeah, to Big John Little. That's good. I have a cousin that is like 7 feet tall, and his
Oh,
name has
wow.
been Little Larry ever since he was a kid, just because he's the junior.
Gotcha.
And he said that's still his name. Um,
I love that.
and let's see. So I want to make sure to remember to get your profile address in there. And I know that I have to let you go on about your day here in a couple of minutes. What are some challenges that might be happening right now? Um, as an industry expert, if you were to put that hat on right now, is there
Mhm.
something going on right now that's like maybe seasonally, or something that maybe something people are coming to you with as a concern or a question frequently at this time? Anything like that? Maybe you want to share.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to be cliche about it, but AI is really the biggest game changer that's happening in the HR space as well as the spaces that HR touches and influences. People are just concerned about, is AI going to be able to take my job or be able to replace me or replace some of my functions? And I use AI on a daily basis. It's a core part of my business for a number of reasons. But I will tell you the one thing that AI can never replace is the personal touch. It can never
Yes.
replace the human aspects of what we bring to the work that we do. And so, like, I think that's one thing that we can continue to look into is how can we make our work more human while also recognizing the value of AI and recognizing
Mm,
the impact of it. And so, in making our work more human, it's really thinking about the workplaces that we're in, whether it be in an office environment, whether it be a virtual environment. How do we make sure that that's as human as possible? How do we make that as I hesitate to use the word comfortable because I think that there's sometimes people have a connotation of it, if it's too comfortable and people aren't going to work. But it's
hmm
when I use comfortable, it's like, is this a space that I feel like I can be my best, that I can thrive? Right. I think that's where businesses have to be looking is how can we make all of the human elements of the things that we do the best so that way we can continue to get the best out of people while still leveraging technology to make us more efficient, to take care of some of the tasks that maybe we don't need a human to do those tasks, but we also do need humans to carry other parts of our business. So that's the challenge for
hmm
business owners and for business leaders is how do we find that sweet spot between maximizing the human element and also leveraging the technology that we have available to us now.
Right. Well, I think I would come to I think I would want to come to you just to have a little consultation around that. To hear you say that to me over and over again. It's a your job is to do the human stuff.
Right.
That's good. Okay. Yeah, well, I would like to definitely ask you more and get some more time with you. So come back whenever you can. And
For
don't
sure.
forget to look out for the magazine. There will be an article about this interview. And so, in the meantime, um, Big John Little on LinkedIn. And thank you
Yes.
so much. I hope you have a fantastic day. We'll talk real soon.
Thank you. You do the same.
Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Dear Business Coach podcast. My name's Elizabeth Walker, producer and host. Don't forget to subscribe to email. Thank you so much for being here and find one thing today to move your business forward. Contact me at dearbusinesscoachpodcast@gmail.com. And as always, you are a superstar.